In this episode of The Road to Unicum, we look at the SP1C, a Tier 7 German light tank, and one of my favorite tanks in the game. It has a very unique playstyle and a fairly steep learning curve, so we're going to break that down in this review video. The tank isn't a very good active scout. It doesn't have the type of agility and acceleration that many other light tanks have, and it also sits a little bit tall, and the armor is paper thin, so you really can't afford to active scout to the extent that you would in some of the other tanks that are its peers. What I'll still do is run up to the E lane here toward the ridge to get some early spots and a sense of their deployment, but I'm not going to stop and exchange shots because I don't want to be caught out in the open. The other thing too is a lot of opponents will often go after light tanks early to help take away your vision. I'm being fired upon here, but since I never stop moving, I'm not an easy target to hit. There is an arty, so obviously we want to stay arty safe in this battle as much as possible. Then I'm going to reverse around side scrape, see if I can spot any tanks that are coming down the zero lane. Now this tank's armor is paper thin. You are totally susceptible to high explosive shells, and the tank is also very light, so it can be rammed, and you want to keep your physical distance away from other tanks. This FV4202 has been spotted. I snapshot, and right after shooting, I back into cover in case he spotted me. Now, there is about a 3-second delay for 6 cents before it procs, but the good thing is I know I fired a couple times and he hasn't seen me. There's a lot of intervening soft cover, and if he can't see me, this AMX 5100 sure as heck's not going to see me. And you can play vision control games. I really love the gun on this tank. I think a 3-shot autoloader feels to me like the optimal size because you have a pretty fast clip reload of about 17 seconds. So you can dump your 3 shots relatively quickly and then duck into hard cover until you drop from your opponent's vision and then are ready to fire again. The AP shells have an excellent 180 silver penetration, and each shot does up to 240 damage on average, so you can deal over 700 damage in a clip if all 3 shells penetrate, which is really good burst damage. The gun has some wonky characteristics. The AP shells have a very slow shell velocity and travel in a bit of an arc, so you have to keep that in mind if you're trying to hit targets that are moving or at range. Now our T-44-100 does something really smart. He pushes up on the FV4202, who's already taken a lot of damage. She'll be able to out DPM him, and I'm waiting to see if the 4202 will exit out toward the left so I can finish him off. The good thing about the T-44-100 pushing it up is he has grabbed the attentions of some of these opposing tanks. Like I know the AMX 5100 was aiming in his direction, so I'm going to go ahead and peek out to the left here and then take a snapshot. Now there is a 3-second intra-shot clip reload, but that's more than enough time for the aiming reticle to close in. If you go to VP Attic and you look at the equipment, it turns out that Unicums, over 50% of Unicums use coated optics and rammer. This is one of the few autoloaders that can mount a rammer, but even more significantly, most Unicums select vents over vertical stabilizers, and that was a surprise to me. I put V-stab on every tank that I can, but because this tank is a scout and will often have the first shot advantage since you'll have vision, and because of the 3-second shell, the intra-clip reload, you don't really need vertical stabilizers. So you'll see, like after I fire here, the aiming reticle can close in fully before I'm able to fire again. Now this is the key point in the battle. A lot of players, non-Unicums, would make the push toward their 1 spawn to finish off their arty. People hate arty, they want to take them out. But in this case, I'm reading the map, and the real threat is their push of heavy tanks that are exiting the south side of the city. Right, so I'm clicking on the map to let people know we should go counter those guys. We have an arty who unfortunately panics. He really should sit behind a building and just wait for help, but he ends up running out into the open and getting killed by the heavy tanks here in a moment. And I need to go down here and help this E4 because he's going to get out DPM. I am taking my time aiming in. They can't see me because of the distance, which is great for me, so I can safely land all 3 of these shots. And we've put a lot of their tanks now. Okay, so their Japanese heavy is gone, and I'm going to stay at range and engage like this. This is very safe for me. It's all about smart HP conservation as long as I have a shot. But this IS-5 is wise to the fact that we're shooting on him from field, and he ducks in behind a building. The enemy team is trying to cap, but keep in mind this is encounter mode, and in encounter mode the game is almost never decided by capping, and in a lot of cases it's a waste of a tank to actually go sit in the cap because it is so easy to reset and to counter it by just sticking your toe in the cap. So you have to be careful. I am pushing in on these guys because I'm expecting that they're not looking in this direction. The IS-5, I get a couple damaging shots in here. I am prioritizing the IS-5 over that VK, but the VK, after the IS-5 fired, I know that I can move out and get that finishing shot on the VK. Our E4 has smartly pushed up and is now supporting me. We've got this IS-5 flanked on two sides. The IS-5's gun is going to continue to point in my direction, so I can't pull out. I don't want to trade. Obviously we're down 2 tanks right now, and I want to save those hit points because I might need them. And as long as the IS-5 is looking at me, that E4 is in no danger of taking any damage. So the E4 polishes them off. They've had a tank sitting in cap for a long time. It takes in encounter mode something like 3+ minutes for a tank to solo cap encounter mode. And if you look at the statistical analysis that the WN rating community did, the guys who crunched millions of battles to try to find out how various stats correlate to winning, what they found is a very high correlation between defense points, but not a strong correlation as far as cap points. Now I know for a lot of folks, especially people who would qualify as like tomatoes and potatoes, that would sound counterintuitive because, hey, doesn't capping win games? It can win games, but in a lot of cases it's not the right tactical thing to do, right? So this Tiger has been sitting on the cap, hoping to cap, but he's now in 3 to 4 different lanes of fires. Like, look how our green tanks are spread along different avenues. So at any given point in time, he can only face his tank, his turret in one direction, and his hull to deflect fire from one direction. But that means that the rest of us will probably have easy flanking shots. And frankly, the moment that I reset that Tiger by getting module damage, they should have left the cap. This battle is not going to get decided by capping. And a lot of times, people will sit in cap and they'll make 2 mistakes. They'll be passive and take their gun out of the game. Or what's worse yet, they'll accumulate a lot of cap points and then peek out and then get resets. Like, if you're going to cap. Don't take a shot unless you are 100% sure you're not going to get reset. The only time that I focus on capping is if it's clearly our best chance for winning. It's a tightly contested match, or they have more tanks than we do, but their tanks are far away from their cap, and it's the safest way to win the battle. There's, like I said, this perception among players who are less experienced or maybe not as good at this game that capping is how you win games, and really, in general, it's not. You're giving away your location, and in a lot of cases it's easy to reset. So I get a full defender's medal there of 100 defense points, an ace tanker, over 4,200 damage, and 4 kills, and that T-44-100 did a really nice job in that game as far as pushing the FV-4202 and setting up a situation where we could get good flanking fire on their tanks and really wreck them in field. And it was a big deal because their push in city just annihilated our tanks. So we're going to be looking at more at light tanks, including the SP1C in future videos, so let me know your feedback, and I hope you enjoyed it. Take care.